Hello, you're welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to help you to build a single product view, as I got this recently question from one of my followers who would like to know how to view a single product. And also a few weeks ago I built this e-commerce application and I didn't add this functionality. So today I'm going to help you to do that one. And if you are new to this tutorial, I will advise you first to start to watch the original tutorial video, and I will leave that video URL down of this video. And so let's just showing you what I mean basically. So this is the one that locally, now when you hover on a product, it will show you this view text here, and then when you press this, will redirect you to new screen where you can view a product with the details of the product and ability of adding more product or less or product quantity. And so this is now for items. You can add that to basket by just pressing this add to basket, and if you see here, that's 4 notification being added to the basket. So that's what we are going to do today. And if I compare this one to live product that on the demo on Heroku now, if I try go to different here, for example one of this product, when I hover here I don't see that view text, and also if I press, nothing will happen. So this is the original tutorial, and today I'm going to help you to add this new functionality for a single product view. So if come back again here, so this is the one that we are going to build today. So let's start directly dive in and write the code. So after cloning the original repository that I built on different tutorial for this e-commerce application, which will be called Reatc.js, or maybe even if you start to build your own, then you need to go navigate to your project directory, and then let's open that in our code editor. Code and this will open it on VS Code where I can find my code here. And if I just close two files, so this is the original project that we created previously a few weeks ago, and today we are going to modify this project and add this new functionality. So let's first run that locally, npm start. So after cloning this locally, you need to do npm install, but I did that one, which I'm not going to do again. And after cloning it and then do npm install, then do npm start, and this will take some second until finish compiling. And this also will open it on the port 3000 on the browser. Now that's loading. Let me just open this in two different screens so we can see the code and the actual project view. So this project is now loaded locally, and if you see when we hover, we don't see that functionality. Let's go to the basket. I'm going to remove this. I added earlier from the previous project, and now I clean this one. I can go back to shopping and come back again here. So first step, what I would like to do basically, I need when I hover here to see a view text on this product, and to do that one, actually let's go to this where we have a card for this product on the original project here called custom card on this index here. Because I'm going to make this to be a link or anchor tag, so I need to import this link component at the top here just after this line. I would like to wrap only this area here. If I come back to this, I'd like to wrap only where this image and the description, so I don't need to wrap this price and add to basket button. So to be there is a two option. You can go to view, or also you don't like to view the item, you can just add directly to the basket from here. And to do that, we can only wrap this image and this description, and to do that, which will be only this action media, and we can wrap only action media. So an action media is start here and it's closing here, and we can then close this link down here. So we change that one. If you see directly, the color is being changed to blue because this is indicating it is an anchor tag element, and we can go and modify actually the CSS to change this color back as it was before. And to do that one, just we need to go to this file style.css, which is imported here, and I can come back to this style.css. After line this here, after this card, I can add new line here and add this CSS. It's just CSS basically to override this color. And also and now I can add one more element here to display view text, and that it will be just a h3, so we can use it to display that text here on the end of this card action area, just before this closing tag, and inside I can add this h3. You can add h3, or you can use typography as h3 also. That will still do the job. We can use this typography here And if I go back to this h3, change it to topography, and also we can add a variant to be h3. So this is still same, because let's stick to variant because we use material UI and just to be more consistent. So this still will do. And as you see, this view text is being shown here, but it look weird. It doesn't look nice at all. So we can add the CSS to make it fit in correct position. And that CSS I already built. I'm just going to bring it here. And if I come back to this style CSS after this just line I added, I can also add this CSS. So the selector will be this the root, which will be added by material UI, and this custom card, which is this here, the custom card, this one, and then will be anchor tag, the one we added to wrap everything here, and then h3, which is just topography we added. And this CSS only just to center that element or the text on this area. And also if you see here, I added the opacity to be 0, which is here. And if I just disable this line, will show that text. As you see this text, and by default I need to hide the opacity. When I hover, then I can see this text. So because of that, I disable this one, and then I'm adding another hover effect. And this hover, when I hover on the card, then will help me to show that view text, this one, which will be just root, and then the card or custom card. When I hover on the custom card and then try to show this h3 opacity, change it to from 0 to be 1. And also, as you see here, I added this transition so to make it smoothly or animated, so you can see that's really nicely affected moving from 0 to 1. And as you see now, if I come back and try to hover, that's it. So now I see this text, so I added the text, and if I press, that will basically redirect me to root, new root with an ID. If I go back to the component here, if you see when I wrapped this card action area, I wrapped that by link, and also I set to, and this should be the path where it should be redirecting to. So the initial path will be product-view, then /product.id. So this will be the new path that when we click on product, it will be redirected to this new path. Basically, if I just now press on this one, as you see, it's redirecting me to this path, new path here, and will be product-view this new ID, and this ID for this product. So basically, I got this ID from the product being passed down here to this custom card component. And now that we created the new path, and we can redirect to new path, and also we added the text with the CSS, with nice CSS effect. But now we need to create the component. When we redirect to this here areas, then we can see the actual content or the card contents. So we can go back and let's create our component. So here inside component, let's create another directory and call it just product view, and hit enter. And inside, let's create index file and another style file, and inside this index, let's create dummy component, and let's rename this one. And now we create the component. We can just here change this to import the CSS instead of React, but CSS, save it. Now we created the component, but let's see how we can access this component. We need to go back to app.js here, where we can add new root for this component. We can just duplicate this root here and modify it to use a new component. Instead of /checkout, it will be /product view, and then will be /:id. So this will be dynamic ID, any ID that when you press on the product, it will just select that ID. And instead of checkout, this will be product view. And we don't need all these props, just save it like that. Very simple. We need to import this product view. Just duplicate this line here and change it to product view. So now we have product view. We still will not be able to see the text because we need to add some CSS for that. But if we debug the HTML here or the elements, we should see our component basically. So as you saw, this is a component being rendered here, but is not being visible yet. So we need to add more content, and we need to add more CSS so we can get to the results that we can see the actual product. So we need to add more, as I mentioned, content. Let's go back to our product components or product view. And if I come back to this index here inside, I'm going first actually to import some Material UI component to help us to add some CSS or styling here at the top before this style. Then we can add our own touch. So first we need to add to import this container, and also I'm going to change this instead of div to be container. And also I'm going to add a class called product view to the top container, so later I can add CSS to just modify this area here. And instead of this, also I'm going to change it to add a grid system. So inside here I'm going to add a grid. So I'm going to split the screen as you saw on the demo to two sides. One side will be the product image and the second side will be the product text or details. This is how you can add a grid. So first we'll open a grid tag here, and then we'll close it. We'll take a props as a container because it will wrap all the content into the middle of the screen. And also then we'll take this spacing to add margin between the card or the elements. And then inside each element or each child will take a grid item. So inside here, because we have two items as you saw in the demo, as I mentioned, one sphere, right one and left one, I'm going just to explain this actually line by line. And I have here extra tag here. I need to remove this one, and if I save this one now will be fine. So let's start from one by one. This is the parent. So as I mentioned, everything will be wrapped by the grid parent, and then this grid parent has two child, first child and second child. First child will be this item represented as an item. It will take the full width on the small or extra small screen, and from the medium and large screen will take 80% of the width. And the second one will take the 12 or take the full width on the small extra small screen, and it will take 20% from the full width. Let's start from the first child, so which will be the image here. As you see, is just wrapping the child by grid item, and then this is the child, basically the image. And this image will get first, let's by source. We'll get the source from the product, and I'm going to create initial state for this product. And also we are going to use the ID that we just redirect to this path from here, and we can make a request to Commerce.js. We can get a product content or details. And same as here, I'm changing also the attribute to the product name. And here I'm adding this onload function, and I can comment this out for now. So this unload, I'm using it for make sure the image being loaded until showing the content. So first I will show an spanner, but for example, if your internet is slow, I would like not to show you the text on the page or the content until everything being loaded and the spanner, then it will be disabled. I will come back to this later. This is the first child. If I collapse this one and come back to the second child, which it has a lot of stuff around, but it will be easier, I'm going to explain it line by line. If I open this one here, so the first one here, just to display the name of the product using just Material UI typography, which will be H2, and the second one to display a product description. And I'm using this dangerously set inner HTML because the product, it will come with the HTML code, and that it will not be properly rendered by React. So I need to use this type of function which will help to render that correctly. And here is also this another typography to display the price, which we can access it from the product.price. And then inside here I'm adding another grid parent or a grid layout for showing the two buttons for adding the quantity. Basically, I'm adding another parent here, and inside this parent has two child, and the first child here will be this button where we can increase the quantity. This Material UI actually props to add a styling to this button. And also I'm adding this class myself to add some modification to this class. And then here I'm adding this on click handler, where when you press on this button, as you see with this plus, will increase the quantity. And the opposite way for this, another one here for this button here, so to decrease the quantity, basically that on click handler, it will call this handle quantity, but it will pass a param called decrease. Depending on this param, then I can decrease the quantity or I can increase. As you see, this is the param that I'm going to use it later on the function called handle quantity, which I'm going just to create. And on between to this button, I'm just displaying the quantity, so you can see the quantity being increased or decreased, and adding this class to add some CSS to this typography. And at the bottom here, I have another also a grid child, and this grid child to display add to basket button. So this button it will also has just on-click handler. It will call this add product function, and this add product function, it will expect two prompts. The first prompt, it will be the product ID, and the second prompt, it will be the quantity. And this function already been created on the app.js component on the original tutorial. So that's why I advise you, if you didn't watch the original tutorial, go back first, try to watch that one, and then come back to here. And then inside here, just I'm showing this icon to indicate this is the basket icon, and then this text to tell the user what should do. That's it. So basically, that's simply the component. Let's now just first bring this function. So this function here called create markup. So this one here, I can add it. So also this, you can actually search for this online. You can find this. If I go back to the browser here and did just call this function and React, and this first one, and if you hit this, you can find more documentation about this dangerously set inner HTML React. So you can find more details here about this and how to use it. You can use it inline actually. You can use it without a function, but for the security, they're advising you to separate this to have a function like what we have here, and then call set dangerously set inner HTML, and then call that function. And now I just added this function. Let's create initial state for our products. So here, just after this line number 8, this is the initial product state. It will be empty object, and later we can update this object. So after this here, so this is the icon that I'm displaying it at the bottom for our chart or the basket, and then we need to import this commerce library that already we have it on the original tutorial. We are going to use this to make a request to Commerce.js, so we can product details by using the product ID. And also here I'm importing this use state. I'm using it here. And now I created my initial state for the product, but I need to get a product itself. How I'm going to get that one? I need to create a function called fetch product, which let me bring it here. So here, this is a fetch product. Fetch product is just normal, very simple function that it will expect a prompt, and also using async await, because when making a request to Commerce.js, because it's synchronous call, so it will take time until come back, and I do not need to do anything after until getting the response back. So in that scenario, I need to wait. So to use async await, this is the approach how to use it. You will call this async here before just the parentheses, and then we'll call await before or after assigning your function, and then this line will be this line here will be wait until the first one finishes, then it will go to the next line. And then after getting this response, from the response we can structuring the name, price, media, quantity, and description. And here I'm setting this product or this initial empty product to have this new value. And now I'm getting this ID actually from this prompt, and later I will add more details how you can access the ID. And as I mentioned this, I'm getting it from the Commerce.js response when I make a request in this line. So now I created this fetch product function. Then I need to call this fetch product function when I just joined this component to make a request just when the component being rendered. Then we need to use something called use effect, which is React method or React hook method, which we can use it to make a request for an API just after your component rendered. So we can use this function here to make a request to this API, or to call this function, and this function will make a request to Commerce.js to get a product data or content. So as you see here from the window.location.pass, this one here, we can access this ID. If I let's add more space, we can access this ID by accessing the window.location.pass name, which will return this part here. And then this will be splitting this to, it will be a string, and then I'm use a split method to make it an array. And then I'm accessing the last index, which will be index number 2, and then that will be this actual ID, basically this ID here. Will return me back this ID, and then I'm passing this ID as a prompt to this fetch product. And here on fetch product, I use this ID to make a request by calling commerce.products.retrieve. This is a message that's available on commerce.js API, and then I pass my product ID. So by this way, then I can get a data for a specific product by using the ID. And I'm using the ID itself again to set it back to this product. I can use it later. As I mentioned earlier, that when I need to update a product in my basket or chart, I use the product.id here at the bottom. So that's now I got my ID, and I can make a request to the API, and I can get a data. And let's see what is missing here. We need to create this function called handle quantity. So here, after this use effect, let me add new line. And this handle quantity is just a function. It will expect a param. This param, it might be decrease or increase depending on this. If it is decrease and the quantity greater than 1, then I decrease the quantity by -1. So I'm adding this condition to make sure not go beyond the 0, basically, to be between 1 and up to 1, basically. The lower number, it will be 1. And the second condition here, I'm checking if it is increase and the quantity less than 10, and then try to decrease by 1, which I will limit to be the maximum number 10 and the minimum number 1. So this is a function, basically very simple and easy. And as you see here, this is complaining because I didn't create my initial quantity state. Let me add that initial quantity state. So after here's the product or initial product state here, let me add another state for our initial quantity. So the initial quantity, it will be 1, and then we can decrease that by 1 or increase it by 1. And here that it basically will call this set function or set quantity to update the quantity itself. And then down here, I'm using the function by passing this param. And then, for example, on this increase button, I can increase it by 1, and the limit will be 10. And the opposite here, the decrease, when I can pass this param goes decrease, then I can decrease by 1, and the minimum will be in 1 quantity number. And one last function that here we need to add, which is this add product. As I mentioned earlier, we can get this product add product function from the app.js component, which was already created. We can get it as a props. This is how we can access a props through this component. So now we can access it by this way, but we need to pass it from top level. Where we can add it, we need to go back again to this app.js component. And if I search to this function, as you see, is already available here. And this function is expect a product ID and quantity, as I mentioned earlier. If I just scroll down where we try to render our product view component here, then we can pass another props and assign it to this props value or function. So now that's being added. If I come back here to the screen, if you see, now we have this text, and we should have an image here because it's without a CSS. Let me just bring the CSS for all of these things. So as I mentioned, I will not be focused on the CSS. I will just focus on this functionality, and you can go back again and read more about CSS and how to make it more nicer or to add your own touch. If you save this CSS, I just add it to this file here, and now here we see, and this fully responsive, and this how it should be look like on small devices. And if you go to larger devices, it will take 2 columns instead of 1 column. So now I can see this on different columns. Now I can close this one, and now I can decrease, and I can increase, and I can add to basket. And you see here, the basket is now being updated by 4 items. So that's it, and that's the end basically. And before the end, actually, I need to add also a spinner. Basically, when you load here, I need to, for example, I don't need to see this. I need to see the spinner first and then see the content. So to show the spinner, let me come back to this index.js, and at the bottom here, just after this closing container, let me add this component. I have initial state called loading. It will check if loading is true, it will show the spinner. When the loading is being false, then it will hide the spinner. At the top here, just after this line here, now I have the initial state, it will be loading true, and I need to set this back to be false after just this image being loaded, as which is one that I mentioned earlier. If I come back here again to this first child and enable this back again, so when the image being loaded, then it will set the loading to be false, then it will hide the spinner. So I need to import the spinner at the top. I didn't import that one yet. So now the spinner being imported, just the spinner, as you see the spinner now that being added, but the spinner doesn't look fit in correct position. I would like to add some CSS to the spinner. So if I go back to the spinner directory here on the CSS file, just I'm going to update the original spinner CSS here to make it meet our requirement. I'm going to just change this line here. So this will help us to make the spinner take the full screen down and also to be top of everything. If I save this one and then load the page, now it sees the spinner taking the correct position and nicely. And also I noticed one small issue here we can fix. Basically when go to the basket or the chart, and if you would like to view one of these product again, and if you press here, this will not actually showing the actual product details, because as you see here, this product ID is not the correct product ID. And when we are actually try to view a product from the basket, we need to access product underscore ID. If I open the inspector here, I added a console to console log the items, and as you see here, we have ID and we have also product underscore ID. We are interested in this product underscore ID, not just the ID. How to fix this issue? Basically, if I go back again to the main page, let me go to this to code here, and on this custom card I have condition to differentiate between where if this custom card being used on the basket or used on the product component. So if it is coming from the product component, we'll continue use this approach, will be just product.id, which is the right one. But if it is coming from the basket, then we need to use product underscore ID. So let's basically easily we can add a condition, say if it is basket, is coming from basket, try to use product underscore ID, otherwise use product.id. So this basically will fix the issue. If I go back again and try go to the basket and try to view one of this product, for example, and now that should getting it. So as you see, now we have different ID and now we have the data. That's the issue being fixed basically, and that is very simple. And that it basically, this is the end of tutorial. If you like this video, don't forget to press thumb up, and also if you are new to my channel, don't forget to press subscribe button and enable the bell to get all new videos and content. And on the screen you can see now the recommended videos, and also I added some more videos for you so you can watch more about Commerce.js and also about React projects.